gloom in oil country.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Schwab. Schwab knows that investors want control of their financial future. That's why when it comes to wealth management, Schwab is dedicated to giving investors more choices. More at schwab.com.
From Marketplace, I'm Sabri Benishore, in for David Brancaccio. Texas oil and gas firms are feeling pessimistic about the upcoming year. In the latest Dallas Fed survey, energy firms reported lower production, increased costs, and heightened uncertainty. Oil is a good chunk of the Texas economy, and the Texas economy is a good chunk of the U.S. economy, around 9%. Marketplace's Elizabeth Troval has more on what it all means.
Typically, Kunal Patel with the Dallas Fed says oil and gas executives tend to look at the bright side.
And right now, they're pessimistic.
Some of their top concerns:
commodity prices, uncertainty, geopolitics.
Relatively weak oil prices is the big issue, with OPEC Plus raising production in an already amply supplied market. And tariffs aren't helping, says Carr Ingham with the Texas Alliance of Energy Producers.
There's just no denying that tariffs raise costs to the oil and gas industry, and there's no denying that that's happening in a year in which the price of the commodity that they sell is lower than it was last year.
The cost cutting has already begun for oil and gas firms and will likely continue, says Dan Pickering with Pickering Energy Partners.
We've seen layoffs. We'll probably see some more. I would say lower activity, ongoing consolidation, because the companies are looking for ways to gain efficiency, ways to gain size and scale.
But he's not betting against the state's oil producers either.
Net, Texas is blessed and will continue to be.
The Permian Basin currently produces more oil than most countries. I'm Elizabeth Troval for Marketplace.
The auto parts manufacturer First Brands has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. It got itself into that mess by borrowing too much, and the company's rapid fall has raised questions about the riskier side of lending in corporate America. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer has that.
First Brands is a conglomeration of companies acquired through loans. They make brake parts, windshield wipers, and water pumps. First Brands borrowed against its future revenues, promising to pay back investors when the money came in. This type of opaque borrowing doesn't show up on a company's balance sheet. First Brands tried to refinance its debt last month. The refinancing was put on pause after investors asked for an independent auditing of the company's accounts. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer for Marketplace.
All right, let's do the numbers. Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures are all up in the 4 to 0.7% range, with Dow futures up 182 points. The yield on the 10-year Treasury is 4.16%. And Electronic Arts, that's the video game company, they make Madden, NFL, and The Sim, among others. It is being bought for $55 billion by private equity firms Silver Lake Partners and Affinity Partners, along with Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund. It is the most anyone has paid to take a public company private ever.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Bitwarden Password Manager, designed to protect users needing access to secure logins for personal or work accounts from any device, anywhere. Bitwarden.com. And by Odoo, dedicated to providing software designed to scale with businesses. Odoo's programs for manufacturing, accounting, and more aim to provide building blocks for creating a custom software suite. Odoo, what businesses need.
Back in March, without warning, the Department of Agriculture terminated a program that helped schools buy locally grown food for student meals. Now, the department is bringing it back with revisions for next year, technically the fiscal year, which starts in October. In the past, schools used this program to get anything from local ground beef for patties to fresh veggies for the salad bar. But this time around, farmers and school districts could be hesitant to participate. Marketplace's Savannah Peters has more.
On Buffalo Creek Ranch in Moriarty, New Mexico.
We can walk through here real quick.
A couple of Angus cows and their calves are munching on hay.
We're 13th generation New Mexicans. We've been ranching, as a business for the last 5 to 6 generations.
Manny Encinias and his family market their beef locally to restaurants and at farmers markets. But a few years ago, Encinias says school districts joined his customer base with funding from the USDA.
That was a game changer, right? I think for us, that's given us market access during the fall and the winter time.
When Encinias says direct-to-consumer sales tend to slow down. He gradually scaled up to supply that new market. But when the funding was canceled, so were a lot of his contracts.
I mean, the rug's been pulled out from underneath us.
Encinias had to break from his usual business model and auction off some of his cow-calf pairs. That meant he got a smaller return than he was expecting through contracts with the schools.
It's probably going to cost us anywhere in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $85,000. And I think that's pretty sizable.
This is how a lot of small-scale farmers spent their summer, looking for new buyers for food that was supposed to feed local kids. At the same time, schools scrambled to fill holes in their menus.
Two of the hardest jobs you can have in this world are like farmer and school food provider.
Sunny Baker with the National Farm to School Network says school districts are getting squeezed by multiple federal cuts, plus higher food prices across the board.
They're often going back to highly processed foods to just get the kids simply fed.
The USDA's revived Farm to School grant program comes with a higher funding cap and looser guidelines for which local producers schools can buy from. But Jennifer Gaddis, a professor at the University of Wisconsin, says it may be too late to restore some farm-to-school partnerships.
I think it just left a lot of people feeling kind of burned that they had spent a lot of people hours trying to start something new in terms of these new relationships, these new supply chains.
In New Mexico, Manny Encinias is willing to give it another go if local school districts are.
Let's just get the food back into the hands that need it.
But Encinias builds his herds and makes business plans a year or more in advance. If those markets are coming back, he needed to know yesterday. In Moriarty, New Mexico, I'm Savannah Peters for Marketplace.
And in New York, I'm Sabri Benishore with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.